What is up, everybody? I'm NoLuxGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today I'm taking a look at Annihilus, a deck that I just threw together, but I'm currently undefeated with. We're going to take a look at those games in just a moment, but first I wanted to break down the deck list a little bit, but feel free to skip ahead if you just want to get to the gameplay. But I'm playing Annihilus, the newest card added to Marvel Snap. I think that Annihilus is pretty strong, especially with Sentry. I think that's going to be a package that we're just going to see from now on. That's going to be a regular part of Marvel Snap. And then also playing Loki, which is possibly the best card in Marvel Snap still after some nerfs. Loki can just win games all by itself. And I think that it's also just a really good backup plan for when you don't draw your Annihilus Sentry combo, or you don't think it's going to be enough to allow you to win the game. So I think that the best thing to look at second here are the synergy cards. That's the core of the deck, Loki and Annihilus. That's where I started the list. And then I wanted to think about what cards overlap and are good to play in both of those decks. And I think the Hood is the first thing that comes to mind because it contributes negative power for Annihilus, and it also adds a card to your hand for Loki. It adds a pretty good card to your hand, so it's a card that you might not want to just throw away with Loki, but it is still synergistic there, adding another card to your hand. Falcon becomes a Annihilus synergy card once you have the Hood in your deck, and that might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but until you think about the fact that Carnage is also an Annihilus synergy card, it works well to destroy some of the junk that you built up, and Viper is as well. So Falcon is just another way to get rid of those rocks and get rid of the Hood. One thing that I have not yet done, but I think would be pretty awesome, maybe in like an Elysium game or something, is use Debrii to put a bunch of rocks out on the field and then use Patriot to pick them back up, so that way I can toss those with Loki. That is definitely something to look out for. And then Nico, in a similar way to Falcon, it's just a very powerful, versatile card. It can turn the Hood into a demon or destroy it, add additional cards to your hand for Loki. So there's a lot of different stuff that Nico can do. And then Werewolf is a synergy card for both Annihilus and Loki, both of which are on reveal effects. You can see all of these are on reveal cards, and actually this deck plays 11 total on reveal cards. Every card in the deck except for Werewolf By Night is an on reveal card. This might secretly, like, maybe this should be called Annihilus Wolf or something. Werewolf by Annihilus. He might get top billing because Werewolf, if not Loki, Werewolf is the best card in the game right now. The numbers on it just are way too high right now. I'm sure this card is going to get balanced a little bit better in the future, but for right now, it's busted. So we're playing it, and we are playing 11 other on reveal cards, and arguably even more, with both Nico and Falcon allowing us to find more on reveal effects. And then after synergy, the cards that overlap and are kind of support for both archetypes, we just have the straight up support. So this is going to include Loki support in the form of Maria Hill and Snowguard. I'm playing only the one cost Loki support cards, so that way we get max synergy with our Falcon as well. And then I am running two cards that kind of get rid of junk, Carnage and Viper, which I also just think are strong right now while everybody else is playing Annihilus, because it is the new card, and into the weekend a lot of people are going to be playing Annihilus to complete the weekend mission. But it's part of the reason, it's like if you can't beat them, join them and then beat them. I think that Carnage and Viper are both just really strong cards right now for clearing the field, and you'll see that through a variety of these different games. And then I'm actually running like the real Nihilus support cards, which is Debrii and Sentry, both really fantastic with Annihilus, a fantastic curve there to go 3, 4, 5, Debrii, Sentry, and Annihilus. Can just be absolutely game-winning, locking your opponent out of being able to make plays on the final turn of the game. Plus Sentry Annihilus is 27 power for 9 energy, a pretty dang good rate when you can pull it off. So that is the full deck. Let me just get that on the screen here. Should be this slide. Yeah, perfect. So here it is, Annihilus. If you just want to copy the deck list, I probably have it in the video description as well. So feel free to try it out yourself. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think I might have missed. Should I be playing Collector, Shadow King, Shang-Chi? I'm not sure, but for right now, this list is working for me, and I'll show you how it went in these games. Now we're gonna take a look at my full Conquest run from Proving Grounds all the way to Gold. This first game isn't super exciting, it's just a Proving Grounds game, and honestly, doesn't really feel indicative of how this deck will typically play out, and you'll see what I mean with that in a moment, but I figured I would still include it in this video. If you want to jump ahead, I think that videos 3, 4, and 5, matches 3, 4, and 5 in this video are the ones to watch. So if you want to jump ahead a little bit, I will probably have links down on the in the video description so that you can skip ahead easily. But like I said, we're going to start off here with Proving Grounds, getting my feet wet. This was my very first game that I played with the deck, so I thought it could still be at least somewhat interesting to look at. I'm going to snap on turn 2 just because I forgot to snap turn 1. It's Proving Grounds, not taking it super seriously. And then this is the reason that I said that this game wasn't super indicative of the deck as a whole. I get Elsa Bloodstone off of Maria Hill, and this is really going to be an Elsa Bloodstone game. I think that this game could have still been great for us because we've got Cloning Vats plus Loki, which is a pretty good combo, but instead we're just going to use Cloning Vats plus Elsa, get as many copies of Elsa as we can, and fill all of our locations, and then you'll see how that interaction works even more so in just a moment. So now I can play Elsa plus the Falcon or the Carnage. It's basically like, do I want to play the Carnage right now so that way if I have to play the Falcon later? And I was kind of thinking, okay, Falcon to bounce all of these Snowguards to my hand could be cool because I've filled the location, but I could still continue to add power there later, which might be interesting. My opponent's just going to Cosmo all 3 locations, and honestly, Quinjet is a pretty good card with all of these Cloning Vats flapping around here. But I think that we're just like, we basically get to take the downside off of Carnage and Falcon. Like, I'm just gonna not bounce my cards anymore, and I'm just gonna play all of my cards out now, as my opponent is probably looking to Cosmo in every location. So I'm gonna play an Elsa and a Carnage, and the cool thing here is that the Carnage keeps that buff on itself even through a leech. My opponent is going to leech me here, so now I just have a 2/6 Carnage that will not destroy everything. So while it's not quite like they played Cosmo, it is kind of like they played Cosmo into Lemuria as well. I'm gonna triple Elsa on this 3rd Elsa, or 4th Elsa rather, and then I'm just gonna play enough power in Lemuria to beat my opponent's Hulk. Pretty straightforward game. Like I said, not super exciting. Let's hop into the Silver Conquest though and see how that goes with Annihilus. This first game starts off where I just snapped because I felt like I had a pretty reasonable hand. Hood, Falcon, Annihilus, and Loki. It's the 2 cards that I built the deck around, plus 2 of those cards from the second slide, those synergy cards that work with both Loki and Annihilus. So I was feeling confident enough that I snapped, and my opponent, I guess, potentially not having any synergy with that first location and fearing the snap, they're just going to retreat, and we're up a cube. Great. Seems good to me so far, and I like this hand reasonably enough, but my opponent's going to snap back on us now. So they are kind of bringing their own pressure. Do have to think, I mean, I don't really have any great synergy with Loki because I don't have a good Nico. My opponent did get a good Nico. They've got the draw 2 cards Nico off the rip. Negative Zone is a pretty good location though for Annihilus, so that could be interesting. And one location that I'm not actually super feeling here is Wakanda. So I'm going to use Nico to just get rid of my opponent's Wakanda. They snapped to Wakanda, So that just kind of makes me feel like I don't want them to have access to Wakanda. Wakanda's not great for Annihilus because Annihilus does destroy if he creates too much junk. So figure I'm gonna get Wakanda out of here, play Debris into negative zone. That does set up pretty well for an Annihilus if we can draw it as well with Sentry, Debris, Annihilus curve. So let's get rid of Wakanda and see what we can make happen here. My opponent plays a Thor, and I think I actually, I tap on the Thor just because it had no border and no colored background or anything. I'm not used to seeing like Thor with 0 splits on it and 0 upgrades in general. We draw Annihilus and then we find Cloning Vats. So looking like a pretty good curve for us. However, Wakanda became Death's Domain, which I think is too much in the other direction. I was excited for to get rid of Wakanda, but Death's Domain when my opponent's already winning in that location is a little bit awkward. So now Sentry has to go into the negative zone. That's the only option, but I am going to snap back with this Sentry plus Annihilus curve, feeling reasonable enough. Just about the 27 point output that Annihilus brings. I think that is just worth snapping for. So I'm going to snap into the negative zone. I also feel like we're going to have a reasonable start into the negative zone with us at 7 and my opponent -6. That's a lead by 13 as well. So I'm feeling pretty good with that overall. My opponent uses Gladiator, which is like just an awkward card always. It gives me Quake for free, so it's like it's a very weird card. Like, it's not just Yondu here. It's a 3/7 that draws me a Quake. So very, very interesting. I'm looking to bunk my opponent in Cloning Vats this turn, so I'm not super worried about putting too much power in that location. And I just want to make sure that I am going to have enough over into the negative zone because I'm not going to win Death's Domain. I mean, maybe now I can because I drew Quake, right? And I also drew Werewolf, which is a great way to interact with that location as well. But I am afraid that they could just draw Mjolnir, and then I am really far behind in Death's Domain. But I think with Annihilus, set up pretty well to win the Cloning Vats, though my opponent is incentivized to play into Cloning Vats this turn, both because it will give them another copy of the card and because they could fear Annihilus and that would destroy the Void. However, it's not what's going to happen. They're going to play Gladiator, give me 2 more cards from Snowguard. Didn't really talk about that at the start of the video, so I'll just bring that up here now as I probably just won this game for 4 cubes. Part of the reason that I'm playing this deck and that I think Loki is so good, I think that Snowguard is a fantastic card. When I was building Annihilus, I was like, okay, I know I want Sentry, I know I want Debris, I know I want Hood, and then I think I want Snowguard. That was the next card that I turned to because I think there's just so much versatility in these Snowguard, Hawk, and Bear forms. I'm going to play Quake into Loki to win this one because we are probably winning the center location regardless, and if I can move Death's Domain 50-50 into the center, I will definitely win that location. We'll blow up their card and then Loki will actually win me Death's Domain. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think we've got it covered here from all angles, but yeah, just wanted to give a shout out while we are waiting for my opponent to come up with their play for the turn. It's just going to be a retreat, but just a little shout out to Snowguard, which I think is a really, really fantastic card after the buff. Just so much versatility. It might be like the new Legion for me, where, or potentially like the new Jeff from a few months ago, where if you're just looking for that 12th card in your deck, by the way, this deck doesn't play America Chavez. Didn't really talk about that. Not sure what I want to say on that just yet, but there's definitely a game where I'll bring it up. But the Snowguard, I just think is like a great extra card to add to your deck, and of course, if you're playing a Loki deck, it's just fantastic. So lead off with Snowguard this turn. Clintar is somewhat interesting. I'm not sure if I really should have played the Snowguard full right. You really have to think about the full right location as sort of being a specific location with this deck. It's not just the third location to reveal, it's the location that your Sentry is always going to put the Void into, which is really important if you have Viper. We didn't have Sentry already, but if you want to give your opponent that Void with Viper, then you're going to need Sentry's help to do so. We get Pet Mansion here as our third location, so we're going to have to play to location number 3 anyways. And Clintar's also kind of a little bit of a weird one because we it makes it more difficult to junk up the board when Clintar's part of the game. I think that's going to be more relevant in a later game, but I'm going to snap with Sentry on 4, Annihilus on 5. I think that that is strong enough. And then final turn of the game, I can just play some other stuff. Falcon, Demon, Snowguard, Hawk, maybe Viper. You can Viper if your opponent's location is already full. So there's some room to play around with that there. But I'm snapping here on turn 4. I just think Sentry, Annihilus, like I said, that's like the main consideration for Annihilus, I want to say, if that's like a fair way to word it. Maria Hill doing some work for us, by the way, in just giving us pretty solid random cards. I've definitely been impressed with Maria Hill just in general. But there's notably some cards missing from this deck, right? I think the biggest one is no Collector. There's also no interaction. I think I probably brought this up in the first part of this video. I said Collector, Shadow King, and Shang-Chi are probably the biggest cards missing from the deck, but in addition to Collector, I could see wanting to run Sentry or Mirage. Those are other strong Loki cards, and I could see cutting down on either Viper or maybe even Falcon, despite Falcon being a synergy card and not a support card. But I could see if you wanted a little bit more in the Loki support category to just trim down on some of the Annihilus support. And yeah, I'm not running any of them. Most of the cards that I just mentioned, so not the Collector, but all the other ones are also on reveal cards, and this deck is secretly a werewolf deck. Awkward kind of sequencing there that makes this turn kind of lame. My opponent is able to block the Sentry from coming into that third location while also keeping Pet Mansion open and staying winning in Pet Mansion because of it. So really good play there by my opponent. I'm up by 13 in Baxter Building. Even if my opponent Shang-Chi's me, we will be tying because they'll be at 0 and I will be at 0. So I think we're doing pretty dang good in the Baxter Building, and it's going to be tough for my opponent to win this game overall. And I feel like if I can just grab the win in Pet Mansion, I'm pretty good. This is where the deck does start to look a little bit awkward though, with Viper, Carnage, and Falcon all as just my random 2-cost cards. I have to either, I can't just play Carnage and get Mojo to work, and the only way that Viper works with Mojo is if my opponent plays something into Pet Mansion, which I think that they, potentially could have, but if they don't, then I lose the location because they give them Snowguard Bear, and then Mojo wouldn't have turned on. So even with Demon, Viper, and Mojo, that only would have been 11 power, and I would have lost to my opponent's 15. Now, they're not going to have that. They're going to play Maximus Juggernaut into Clintar, and we are going to be able to get them for 4 cubes, which gets them to retreat. On to game 3. This is one of the better ones. I'm going to kick this game off by playing the plus cards Nico, make an additional copy of a card Nico, which is good with Loki here, and we're up against a Destroy deck, which is part of the issue. Destroy pretty good against junk because you give them junk and then they just destroy it and get even value from it. So that is going to make this a little bit tougher of a matchup here. On turn 2, this isn't the best play, and I maybe could have just held on to this Viper, but I felt like just playing it out there into Shuri's Lab and then putting it back in my hand for Loki later on seemed fine. I also wasn't sure if this interaction worked the way that I wanted it to, where Shuri's Lab would double it and then Nico would give me a 2/6 Viper. Unfortunately, we're only going to grab a 2/3 Viper from that. Nico kind of messes around with like the order that things happen sometimes because of how the spells are worded, but not a huge deal. On turn 3, I'm going to run out Debrii. My opponent plays a Gladiator, so that will trigger from the Gladiator first and then the Shuri's Lab. So we beat the Gladiator and then we lose to the Gladiator, but we're tied after the Debrii flips over, and honestly just in a really great place here because we're also going to be able to give my opponent that void unless they can fill Strange Academy. I'm also debating just playing Viper this turn into Strange Academy, but ultimately where I decide I want to take this is I want to make them play a card to Shuri's Lab this turn. So I'm going to play Viper into the Shuri's Lab right now to fill that location for my opponent. And if we give them the Sentry, they will be winning that location, but we'll be able to get it back or beat them in those other locations. Now, unfortunately, they're going to have Killmonger, so they are going to make a bunch of extra room for themselves, as well as giving themselves extra energy with that X-23. So, yeah, didn't work out the best for me. I am now losing all 3 locations, but we can turn that around pretty quick here still with Annihilus. So that is the plan here. And this turn, I think I'm just going to play Annihilus into Shuri's Lab, because that way I get a 14 power Annihilus out of it, and then I don't have to worry about Maria Hill coming over and filling the Shuri's Lab for me. Or wait, Maria Hill won't move. It's just the Void. I'm sorry. But if I play Annihilus in Strange Academy, it's 50-50 to just go into Shuri's Lab anyways. So it's either just between Shuri's Lab or the Hub. And I just figure Annihilus is the most powerful card in my deck. Let's play it into Shuri's Lab, and that means that it catches an Annihilus. Was not expecting that one. My opponent got me really good here, and one thing that I did not realize, I will say, I thought my opponent just got me. I realize I can still win this game. Demon into Shuri's Lab wins Shuri's Lab. Carnage into the Hub wins the Hub. Star-Lord, like, maybe does something. It's battling here if my opponent just puts a little bit of power into Strange Academy. So I decided to stay in and go for it. And what I realize is my opponent actually doesn't know what card they destroyed. They probably think that they destroyed Annihilus. Maybe I shouldn't have emoted though, because Alioth does not reveal that information, so maybe I should have just kept it to myself. Now, unfortunately, my opponent plays Lady Deathstrike into the Hub here. Was not expecting that one. That one is definitely going to get the Deadpool emote. That blows me out here. Carnage now gets to destroy nothing. Demon will still win me Shuri's Lab, but I lose for 4 cubes. And I should mention, I think I've probably already lost a game or retreated a game through this video, but undefeated, I'm talking about matches. I'm talking about conquest matches here. I have not lost a conquest match with this deck. Of course, I've lost individual games. That's part of Marvel Snap. Tactfully retreating, or in this case, tactfully losing 4 cubes to start off a conquest game is part of the game. Now we just have to get my opponent back and win a little bit more from here. Superflow kicks off game 2. We've got a pretty reasonable start here with the Hood and Carnage and Viper and Annihilus, so I'm snapping to kick things off. I'm gonna play the Hood into location number 3 because I feel like that is a good place to put my negative power cards. So that way if I draw Sentry and put the Void there, then I can Viper and 50-50 send one of them over, or I could just Viper over the Hood on turn 2. One other kind of interesting play is I could use Viper in Superflow to make it so that my opponent doesn't have that bonus energy. I think there could be a weird play with that if I was able to draw Nico and then go like Nico into Viper, donating Nico, and then Nico blows up the Viper. That could have been cool, but Yondu blows up the Nico, so we're not going to be able to see that one happen. Asgard is location number 2. It's actually a pretty good location for me to drop the Demon into and potentially win in Asgard, so I'm feeling pretty reasonable about that, and reasonable enough that I decide I actually want to bounce this Falcon again before replaying the Hood. And then next turn, I'm going to be able to play the Hood plus Viper the Hood. Unfortunately, my opponent uses Electro on the Hood. Have you ever thought that you would see this play intentionally electroing the Hood, because the Hood just has so many synergies with this deck? It's almost a Hood deck. Yeah, you know what? This is the Hood deck, and every card works with the Hood. This is not Annihilus. This is just welcome to the Hood, baby. Gamma Lab becomes the turn 3 location. Even though my opponent destroyed stuff with Electra there, it's looking interesting because we're probably going to have Hulk advantage. We're definitely going to have Hulk advantage with my opponent only playing one card. Except that one card is Killmonger, so that is going to even the playing field here. They are going to trigger X-23 to have 5 energy next turn, 6 energy next turn. That's going to be crazy, and we're tied at 1 Hulk apiece. So this is suddenly a much closer game. I thought that this game was very much in our favor, and now it's very much not. Now with Colleen Wing, I can get rid of Carnage, and I can really battle for Asgard here. So I'm feeling reasonable yet again about our position, despite only being up by 1 power and not really having anything super exciting. And then I can play Annihilus, give my opponent the rock in the super flow, and then I'll have 7 energy on the final turn, where they will be a little bit more constricted with their plays, and they'll only have 6 energy. They are able to win in Asgard. They had 6 energy this turn, so they're able to play Knull. But like I said, we can Annihilus and move some things over on the Superflow. We can also give them a bunch of rocks in the Gamma Lab, which makes me feel good about winning that location, especially if they play there this turn. They don't. They play Lady Deathstrike to completely clear up the center, but X-23 is going to go right, which means my opponent is now bunked in the Gamma Lab, and we're up in energy in the Superflow. I don't really have anything that I can do with that energy. I can put 7 power there. I don't think that's going to be enough, though. That loses to Chavez. So I think I have to retreat, especially when my opponent snaps there. So we're just going to retreat. We unfortunately cannot beat this board. What I could have done, which would have been a really heads-up play if I had played Annihilus into Superflow, then I still would have been able to easily beat my opponent in Gamma Lab, and then I would have had 9 total power in Superflow, which maybe means I could have tied it and lost on differential, so probably still would have retreated on that one, but I think that would have been slightly better. Hell's Kitchen, first location for game number 3, a pretty good location for a deck playing a bunch of different 1-drops with a lot of different utility, and Snowguard is my favorite utility 1-drop here. I've also got Sentry plus Viper, so a lot of cool stuff that I can do this game. Even if I don't draw the Annihilus, then Tinker's Workshop shows up, which is gonna do kind of a Project Pegasus impression. If you guys remember my fun Project Pegasus videos, I'm going to Snowguard Bear into Tinker's Workshop, which is going to keep that energy flowing and kind of be like a Superflow-esque. Yeah, just a really fun match overall. I think there's a lot of cool counterplay that's happening on both sides of it, and this game's a lot of fun. Even though I have a lot of powerful synergistic cards here, I'm going to pivot this one, and I'm going to drop a turn 3 6-card Loki. I feel like that's pretty dang good. I could see going for the Werewolf, going for the Sentry Viper, but this seemed like a unique opportunity to be able to Loki for 6 this early in the game. I felt like that would give me a lot of opportunity to win this one, so that's what I decided to go for. Opponent going to Gladiator. Unfortunately, I don't find the Knull, but my opponent doesn't know that, right? So they really don't know what exactly we're going for here, and I think the fact that they don't know that we don't have the Knull means that, like, it was a 6-card Loki, so we're 50-50 to have any individual card in the deck. So 50-50 that we just have a huge cheap Knull, and my opponent kind of has to respect that. I am expecting my opponent to play a destroy card into Hell's Kitchen, something like a Venom this turn into Hell's Kitchen I think would make a lot of sense, so I played Gladiator there. Fortunately, that isn't what they go for, but do I flip their Knull? I do not. I flip their Killmonger, which blows up their X-23, giving them some additional energy, and then I played my own Killmonger to destroy that X-23 again, so my opponent has a ton of extra energy on turn 5 of the game. They're also going to Gambit me. That clears out my Loki. I'm still winning this one on differential, just barely, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty interesting moment, and one thing I messed up on, not sure if anybody caught this, I should have played X-23. It was free, could have played it before I played Killmonger, and I would just have an additional energy this turn. That would allow me to play the Hood this turn, which would allow me to play the Hood plus Alioth this turn, and then final turn of the game I'd be able to play Annihilus plus the Demon. So because of that, I'm going to be down 6 power, and yeah, definitely not worth it. Just a little bit of a mistake there, but I'll throw Alioth into the rightmost location with priority. If I don't play Alioth, I'm not going to have priority next turn, so I definitely want to play Alioth this turn with priority. I am able to snipe one of my opponent's cards, then their other card is a Death. So Death is a lot of power. But we actually beat it with Annihilus plus the Hood. So, yeah, that's 10 power. And then I'm specifically going to not Electra my opponent's X-23 because I'm just barely winning in Hell's Kitchen. If X-23 flips over, that's 21 power, and then I'll be losing that location. So I'm going to purposefully try to miss here with Electra. And then I'm also going to battle for Tinker's Workshop. But I think this was a good enough play. My opponent plays Negasonic plus Electra. They don't have too much else going on. And then we're going to play Annihilus to win in Hell's Kitchen. Electra actually kills Electra to win us the Eternity range before dying itself. And then I'm also able to take my opponent in that center location. So we are now only down by 2 cubes. We were down 6 to kick this match off. But now we are slowly crawling our way back into it. Only down 2 cubes, that makes me feel a lot more confident. We had the chance to just straight up lose it here. If my opponent played like Negasonic into Workshop and then put the Electra into the first location, it could have been a little bit dicey. Definitely could have been a little bit dicey for us, but we are able to make it out there. And then this is a really fun game because Altar of Death seems great for my opponent's Destroy deck, but it's also pretty dang good for this deck. We're going to be able to win that location with Werewolf already, so I'm not worried about my opponent like getting a free win there with X-23. We're going to be able to win in the Altar of Death just by playing an on-reveal card there. And the extra energy is really, really good. This deck doesn't really run out of cards because it's a Loki deck, and the extra energy from Altar of Death just allows you to basically do whatever the heck you want. Then I'm going to play Werewolf and play my first on-reveal card. There might be other ways still that we can access Altar of Death, like Snowguard Hawk, so we are just going to yeah, play it like this for now. We'll get the Werewolf moving around, and like what I'm saying is there's another world where you just play Werewolf on the final turn of the game, move it into Altar of Death, and then leave it there as a 5 power card. But we don't really have to do that because we can like continue to get power and be flexible with it. We're going to be playing into Altar of Death a lot, so we'll see where that goes. And then this is a really interesting turn. I think there's a lot of ways that you can play this one. We have Craven. We're going to be getting an additional copy of whatever the first card that we play is, and we also, with Savage Land, have a really, really good chance at bunking my opponent in the rightmost location. I should have gone for it, but ultimately decide not to play it a little bit safe, because if I just played Debris and then Viper, if my opponent played anything into Savage Land, if they played Gladiator into Savage Land, then they might have just won the game. Speaking of winning the game, Gladiator is it's actually just ramp for my opponent. It's not even a 3/7, and it just draws me 2 Snowguards. I think that that's like such fantastic value out of Gladiator. You really can't ask for anything more than that. I'm just going to eat up the junk in the Savage Land here. I don't want to mess around with it too much. And then I'm going to either play Viper or Craven into Altar of Death to give myself a little bit more energy for next turn, but that's the plan here. I ultimately do, I guess, decide to put the Craven in there. I think that either of them could have been okay. Putting the Viper there moves the Werewolf out of Savage Land, so that would have given me a little bit more flexibility as well, and it was also definitely something that I was considering. But Carnage plus Werewolf is going to be a win in the Savage Land. Craven's going to give me a little bit extra energy, and then Killmonger is going to blow up all that junk. So my opponent probably has a really, really cheap death at this point, and potentially a pretty big Knull, I guess, to spoil it a little bit. Onslaught Citadel, one of the locations here that we are looking at, and yeah, Knull is I'm sure massive at this point. So now what do we want to do? We've got Sentry, we've got the Hood, we've also got Altar of Death that we might want to make use of in some capacity. Maybe I just want to play the Hood over into Altar of Death to get that triggered, and then Sentry into Citadel, and I ultimately just decide to play Viper into Altar of Death as well, give myself a bunch of energy for next turn. And what I'd like to do, what I'm kind of setting up here, is I think I'm going to need the power from Werewolf to move over into Savage Land next turn, which means I'm going to use Snowguard Hawk to win Altar of Death, and I'm actually okay with like losing going into this turn, but so that's why like I'm losing now with the Void, and I'm especially losing after my opponent flips over a Knull into the Onslaught Citadel. So now my opponent has priority. Why that's super important is because now I can feel free to drop down my Snowguard Hawk, turn off Altar of Death, and still find myself not turning it off for my opponent. That's the important part here. So I think that this is a pretty good turn, and I think that this should actually take it here for 4 cubes. I'm just like debating if this order was correct, if I'd potentially want to throw yeah, like for whatever reason. I think I actually can't figure out why either of those orders would have been better, but I just have to beat my opponent in Savage Land. Now Shang-Chi is going to take out the Werewolf. Lady Deathstrike is unfortunately going to take out the Void, which is really awkward. However, Annihilus is still a lot of power. It's still a 5/7, and that alongside the Demon is actually still going to be enough to take my opponent in the Savage Land. A really, really close game there, but we are going to be able to get my opponent for 4 cubes. I thought that one was just really fun. The whole match has been pretty fun up until this point, but that game really fun with a huge, huge Knull, and then multiple different ways that I'm battling for Altar of Death. Altar of Death, I think, just a super sweet location, and I was happy to play. I thought I played that game pretty well with all of the different things considered. My opponent has a really weird deck that we are playing up against, and I think we're going to get to see a little bit more of that deck in this game because we've got Loki. So we've got Snowguard plus Nova Roma. It's going to give me a pretty big Loki that I'm eyeing up here, and then I also have Nico. So I'm going to play turn 1 Nico to destroy that Snowguard, draw the Snowguard cards, draw 2 more cards. My opponent's going to Yondu my Falcon. Don't really care about that, but we're just going to have a full Loki hand, and we'll see what shenanigans we can get up to with that. I might even just play Carnage here, because otherwise I'm like overdrawing with the Snowguard, so I don't really need to play the Snowguard here, because I would draw 2 cards from Nico, 2 cards from Snowguard. I think that might still be fine, but I'm just going to destroy Carnage here, because I'll draw 2 cards from Nico, and then I'll draw 1 card next turn. So this will still give me a full hand, and then I can continue to keep my hand full with Maria and the Hood and Snowguard. I'm going to play the Hood plus Viper. I felt like that was a good way to start things off here with a 6 power lead into Asgard. But I don't really need to draw more cards here, as this Gladiator for my opponent, plus the Nova Roma, plus the Nico, actually puts me in a pretty silly situation here on turn 4. Okay, I still had Annihilus. So I'm kind of like jumping ahead here. I did not personally realize this yet. I'm out of cards in my deck at this point. So yeah, I just thought that was really funny. I think that that's maybe what my opponent was going for. My opponent is basically playing every card with the word destroy on it that isn't Carnage, Deathlock, and Venom. They're just playing like every weird card that says destroy plus death and Knull. I think they're just kind of messing around there. I take a look at my deck and see that I've got 0 cards left in my deck, but I still have a lot of tools here. Gambit, Shang-Chi, Gladiator, Killmonger, Alioth, plus a cheap death. My opponent has given me some pretty cool cards. And yeah, I really did not quite know what my opponent was doing until this game. Like, Yondu plus Gladiator is kind of funny, being able to like try to mill your opponent's deck, but that's only going to happen in Nova Roma Asgard games with Nico as well on that effect. So I'm going to gamble here that they are going to play into this location for Alioth, and if they don't, I still like the other ways that this board can play out. Basically, this just keeps me winning by 7 in Asgard, which was a number that I liked, and then I figured Death could easily win it for me in Nova Roma, and I could probably battle with the other game pieces to try to win in Fisk Tower. I did give my opponent a little bit of a advantage here by giving myself priority. So that's kind of an awkward balance between both playing Alioth and Shang-Chi in your deck. And then ultimately, this is what I decide to go for. Gladiator plus Gambit for 10 in Nova Roma, and then a full 12 into Fisk Tower. So I'm battling for all 3 locations, and this feels pretty comfortable to me, just being able to use that energy advantage out of Loki. And we're going to absolutely demolish them there. They will have Knull, so they will beat me in the Fisk Tower, but we will take them down there for the final 2 cubes. Really, really fun game. Well played to my opponent. Cool deck as well, but mine was just a little bit cooler. Now we move on to the Gold Conquest. So that was the Silver Conquest complete, and we'll see how these gold games go. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. And Sinister London is how this first game starts off. So a really, really crazy location. My opponent snaps and fist bumps on turn 1. I think, honestly, my opponent was trying to, with a turn 1 snap, they were then trying to pretend that this was Proving Grounds and we were both supposed to snap here in order to bait me into snapping, because their deck is probably more well set up to dealing with Sinister London. My deck isn't terrible for Sinister London as a junk deck with Carnage, with Viper, and when I hit Carnage, I am going to snap back. I also think that I've got a lot of interesting plays here with Goose, and then Nico is also pretty fantastic. So we shall see what the plan is here. I was also kind of curious how this interaction worked out. If I played a Nico'd destroyed card into Sinister London, if it would still give me a copy of the hood, but I was pretty sure that it wouldn't. And then I also didn't know how many times Nico would destroy the hood here as well. Will it destroy it twice and then draw me 4 cards? Well, I don't actually get to find out because I draw the demon. Looks like it could have potentially happened, and then I do still get the hood. So I don't know, a lot of crazy interactions going on with this deck. My opponent is going to play a huge Deadpool thanks to their double forge. So they're looking pretty good. I'm just going to Carnage on turn 3 here. I think that that is strong enough, and my opponent agrees. Carnage into Sinister London is a pretty good play, and I'm also keeping my hand full this entire time because, well, if my opponent is a destroy deck, then I might just need to steal their Loki. So that is definitely something going on in the back of my mind. Both of us get that Carnage in location 1 and then into Mirror Dimension as well, which turns into Nidavellir. So we both have a big Carnage. I do have priority here though, which is interesting. And I'm going to play Loki, and I'm going to try to steal their destroy deck and do it better than them. They do have Deadpool advantage. I'm not going to be able to grow Deadpool at this point in the game, but I am going to be able to steal their Knull, which seems like it might be pretty good. They play Deadpool plus Venom, and now all I have to do is, well, I don't want to spoil it. This is one of the better things that I could have drawn off the top of the deck here. It's Debrii. Really, really good with Sinister London. It's going to lock my opponent out of the game now. And Debrii plus Carnage means that I will still be able to play on the final turn of the game. I debate playing Bucky Barnes. However, Bucky Barnes probably actually griefs me. If I play the Bucky Barnes, it just means that Carnage won't actually have space to spawn into because I will be full up with rocks and the Bucky Barnes. So I recall that, and I'm just going to play Debrii plus Carnage. It is a little bit awkward. It is a 50-50, and one thing that I could do is I could just play, oh, that's right, I also have Venom. Might as well play Venom instead of the Carnage. I could play the Venom into either of the other locations. So that way I'm not risking a 50-50 here. I ultimately just decide that I want to make a really, really big Knull because as we can see, my opponent's going to be locked out of this game. They are going to fill all of their locations here with rocks, and I just wanted to make sure that my Knull was going to be big enough that if this game got close, because they do have some massive, massive Deadpools, they've played their deaths already, I just want to make sure that we have the most opportunity to make a real big Knull here. And by the looks of it, this Knull is going to be huge. So this was a really, really fun game. To both be full junk and be full Loki, I think was a really, really unique experience. And then I get to finish it off. I realize I can also play Deadpool just for a little bit more juicy destroy value here. Deadpool plus Carnage, I'm going to blow up the whole board, and then I'm going to have some of the biggest Knulls that I've ever played. And of course, I'm not even playing Knull in this deck, which is part of the fun of playing Loki, is playing your opponent's deck better than they ever could have hoped with a 150 to 157 power Knull over in Nidavellir. That will get me 8 cubes and a fist bump from my opponent, who may have still thought we were in Proving Grounds despite being in a gold conquest. They're going to retreat there after being down 8 cubes. So we'll take it. They might have just, I honestly think that they just snapped because it was a Sinister London game and they had a good deck for Sinister London, and then after being down 8 cubes, some people just throw in the towel. It's a lot to try to come back from that. Trying to come back from that against a Loki deck is even more on top of that. So I could understand if they were just frustrated, but they gave me the fist bump there. So they were a good sport about losing to an absolutely massive Knull that unfortunately they gave me. Again, we see Asgard as a location in this match. Asgard, I feel like, came up a lot in this one, though Asgard will not be the location of the match. There is a really important location this match, and it's a fun one. It's not one that you would expect to see super often. It's not like a really, I don't know. I don't really want to spoil it too much more than that, but it's a location that I have not gotten to utilize that much that just has a massive, massive impact on this game. My opponent's going to play Nico plus Black Widow, give me the Widow's Bite, which is fine with Mojo World. We get a little bit of a lead in that location, but looks like my opponent might be playing a bit of bounce, might be playing a bit of junk, and they could be playing like the Darkhawk list because Black Widow is often seen with Darkhawk. Sorry, I just had a little bit of a brain fart. I was thinking about other stuff that happens and which match exactly this is. But turn 4, I'm just going to play Loki into Asgard. Haven't drawn Sentry, which is like the big payoff for Annihilus, and I also don't really even want to give my opponent the Widow's Bite in Mojo World. So I'm just going to Loki. I'm going to take their deck, see what they got going on, seeing if we can learn a thing or two. That's also going to make the Werewolf hop over. So it is 10 power in Asgard, and is definitely like a nice little battle for the location here. And we'll see if that is enough to allow me to win. America Forge, Nico, Spider-Ham, and Beast. So currently just looks like a bounce werewolf list, nothing super exciting. They're going to Spider-Ham America, and that just turns into a 5/9 Piggy. And then they'll forge over into Asgard, but we will still win that location, drawing ourselves Sentry plus Falcon. And I believe this is... yeah. I make some mistakes this turn, and one of the things that I was just kind of thinking about, I just watched Loki season 2, and there, you know, Loki is battling against time. Obviously, I mean, towards the end, he's got a little bit. No spoilers. I recommend it though. I really had fun with Loki season 2. That's all that I'll say. Time is like a huge feature in it, and time is interestingly a weird balance point for Loki in Marvel Snap, because you get all of this new information and then you have to figure out what to do with it, and the clock is ticking down, and I don't play this turn optimally. That's why I'm making this big long speech here. One, because I was kind of curious how everybody feels in the comments about Loki Season 2. Let me know down below what your thoughts were on it. And then, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. It's kind of like a weird way to consider balance on Loki, that you don't have enough time to fully think through all your plays. I filled Mojo World this turn, which means that Werewolf can't jump over there. I lose a Werewolf trigger here. I also don't really do anything with Beast because I didn't want to accidentally bounce my Werewolf, though maybe I could have. And then, yeah, Falcon bounces all these cards and then the Werewolf can come over, but now I can't fill Mojo World next turn unless I end by playing... oh, never mind. I do play one more on-reveal card, Beast. So much happened this turn. It was a lot. I don't know. What play would you have made this turn? How do you feel about Loki Season 2? Let me know in the comments down below. I think I really enjoyed... so I really like the guy from Everything Everywhere All at Once. He was a lot of fun. He plays... he's a recurring character throughout the season. And then I do like Owen Wilson. He's fun as well. And then I thought the final episode was a lot of fun. I think I liked episodes 1, 4, and 6. Maybe could have done without the others, but still thought it was a fun way to spend my time here. One thing that I've really liked, I've brought this up in the past before, but now that Sentry is seeing some more play, I'm happy to talk about this again. Sentry plus Mojo World in location number 3. Not going to come up super often, but when it does, feels really cool that you can play a Sentry, get 10 power, in this case 13 power. Well, my opponent has a slightly bigger Sentry, but still a bunch of power in Monster Metropolis. My opponent is just going to wind up retreating. And then you can also get a little bit of a contribution towards Mojo World. I think that is just a lot of fun. Mojo World, not going to be the key location in this matchup, though, either. I believe it's this one. It might be the next match. So I won't say what it is. We'll just keep the teasers going for a little bit for now. Nico is going to change one of these locations. Snowguard also has some location impact. Being able to impact locations, just such a powerful concept in Marvel Snap. Luke's Bar, actually a pretty good location for me. I can win that location with Werewolf, and I can also win it with Loki cards using Falcon, Snowguard, Maria Hill to fill up my hand. Means that I won't be able to return cards to my hand. So that is a really cheeky way to win Luke's Bar that I've talked about in the past. If you haven't heard me talk about it previously, my opponent is going to use the Hood plus Nico to turn that first location from the Kiln to Titan. And then here it is, Valley of the Hand. A really, really cool location that I have not been able to do too much with just yet. but we have some really interesting opportunities to do stuff with it in this game, and it's making me reconsider a bunch of stuff right now, because this deck has Carnage to destroy cards, and this is a junk deck. So we can basically like get an additional copy of Debrii, for instance, and do some fun stuff with that. For right now, I'm just going to throw some cards into Luke's bar. I believe. I'm going back and forth on it. Okay, I do go for the Debrii this turn. Interesting. I guess that gives me one more little piece of information that I can draw next turn. Never mind. It's going to be a Widow's Bite, so we won't get any extra info there. I'm just going to throw the Widow's Bite into Luke's bar. I do think about just throwing it into Valley of the Hand initially, but then I realize I can fill my hand, win Luke's bar, and still keep the Widow's Bite in play, and then I'm winning in that location only by a little bit, but that's going to be like more than enough. You just have to win by a little bit over in the Luke's bar, and then Carnage, the plan is to Carnage and kill the Debrii, resummon it in Valley of the Hand. And I go back and forth a little bit on whether or not I want to drop the Carnage this turn, but I ultimately do decide to do so. There's still a lot of like unknowns that could happen against my opponent's deck, so just decide I'm going to blow up the Carnage right now, use my energy as much as I can, and I actually... Right, but part of what playing the Carnage does is it returns the Snowguard to my hand, and then I win Luke's bar by 1 exactly, which I also think is really cool to just like barely win that location. Gives me a lot of flexibility here. Then on turn 5, we are going to Valley of the Hand at the end of this turn. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to snap because my opponent basically has to, like, they're in a really tough space. They have to play Annihilus this turn, and if they don't, then we, like, win in Titan, and if they do, then, well, we'll see what happens, because they do play Annihilus turn. They also, Annihilus this turn. They also play Forge plus the Demon, and then we are going to Debrii them, but now they are full in Valley of the Hand because they destroyed things with Annihilus. So that's kind of what I was playing around there. It was a little bit hard to get all of that information out real quickly, but we made them kill their hood so that way they resummon it into Valley of the Hand, which is just a crazy play. We had them covered on either scenario, and it was a little bit hard to communicate all of that. I almost recommend going back and watching that last turn. I think it's one of the coolest turns that I've done in Marvel Snap, and it's going to be enough to get a retreat out of my opponent, as we are going to be able to put 7 power, win Valley of the Hand. It's already tough for them to win in Luke's bar. Maybe they could have found a way to win in Luke's bar, but that was looking tough for them as well, which means, yeah, we are going to take it there. Sinister London is location number 1. That looked like a snap from my opponent, but this looks like a good location for me. They're going to Spider Ham my Werewolf, but I still have Debrii plus Carnage plus Annihilus in a Sinister London game, so I'm feeling pretty good. And on turn 2, I'm just going to run out Falcon, and I'm going to throw that into Mini Lab. This game would have been a lot better for me without Mini Lab, because I'm playing a junk deck, right? So yeah, it would have been nice if we had that center location, but now my opponent is definitely going to be able to play to that center location no matter what on the final turn of the game. It does mean that we now always know where my Sinister London cards are going to. So that is an interesting aspect of it, because we know that anything that I play in Sinister London will wind up in New York. And the other thing to consider here is I didn't want to play the Widow's Bite into Sinister London. I could have done just to power up my Carnage next turn, but I just didn't want to risk filling the location. Now I get to play 2 cards this turn as well. I can play Carnage plus something else into Sinister London. I have to play Carnage first, but I can still play the Hood into Sinister London, set up for a big Annihilus, grab some demons, and the reason that I have to play Carnage first, if I play the Hood first, then I won't get a second Carnage, and I'll bunk myself over in New York. So a little bit awkward there, but I do still get to play a rather large Carnage. and then grab a few demons for the final turns of the game as well, and grab a few hoods, which is really good with this Annihilus setup. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I actually decided not to play the hood on this turn, and I think that a big reason behind that is just managing priority in Annihilus mirrors. It's a little bit of a tricky sub game. I'm not sure if it's one that I actually play perfectly here, but I think that was at least the thought process. Like right now, I kind of want my opponent to have to play Annihilus, so that way I can play Annihilus on the final turn of the game and send everything back to them. I'm not sure if all of it was like fully thought out correctly, but that was the top of my mind here. And then I'm not going to play Maria Hill or the Pig into Sinister London because I want to be able to play Annihilus plus Demon on the final turn of the game. So that's the plan here. I'm going to play Hood. My opponent is going to play that Annihilus, which destroys the Void. That part is a little bit awkward. And then they get an additional copy of Annihilus. And then the other awkward thing here is I only get to play one card into Sinister London, whereas my opponent gets to play two. If they have Alioth here, then they definitely win. But with Annihilus, I felt like I still had a shot at winning this one. Honestly, though, I probably should have just retreated. In hindsight, I just, can't even beat America Chavez because the Hood is going to get destroyed. So I just shouldn't have been in this one. I didn't consider my opponent moving over the Black Widow. I kind of forgot New York was the third location in this game. Definitely not my best gameplay. Last game was, I think, my best gameplay. This one, though, my opponent is going to win 4 cubes and even it up for us, unfortunately. But then we get Valley of the Hand again. So there is some cool stuff that we are going to get to do. Like I said, this is location of the match because it does show up multiple times here. So we're going to do some cool stuff with it multiple times over. And we've got a really good hand. 3 cards that add cards to our hand. Snowguard, the Hood, and then Loki as well on top of all of that. Plus Maria Hill, that is going to give me multiple man this game. Kind of synergy with Valley of the Hood in that, like, it was a cool Phoenix card, and Valley of the Hand was a cool Phoenix location, but not actually synergistic in all reality here. We're going to play the Hood plus Snowguard into Sacred Timeline. And we're actually going to try to fill that location to give ourselves a full hand for Loki. Wakandan Embassy makes Loki a little bit more of an awkward play, though, because my Sentry is now bigger. These Snowguard cards are bigger. I almost don't want to turn them into Loki cards because they're just so much bigger as is. But I am going to take the opportunity to fill my hand up with Sacred Timeline, and then from that point, Loki with a full hand is like really tempting, but I am going to go for Sentry here on turn 4 before going for the Loki stuff. We'll see what else we can find. My opponent also going to be playing a Sentry. Like I said, I think that's one of the reasons that I really like Annihilus right now, because if everybody's playing Annihilus, it kind of behooves you to play them. The cards that Annihilus plays are also good against Annihilus, so that is partially why I'm playing this deck. And then I'm going to play a turn 5 Loki. It's still a turn 5 Loki for 6, so I think that that is pretty good. And considering my opponent is also playing Annihilus, this is a really cheeky play because it gives me opportunity to find Annihilus against my opponent, because now I'm going to basically draw 6 cards on the final turn of the game, which is going to give me a really good chance at drawing Annihilus. I still have that final draw for my final turn as well, because I'm not playing America and my opponent is, though they are going to Widow's Bite me, so that is going to prevent me from drawing it's going to prevent me from drawing the Annihilus myself because of Widow's Bite. I got distracted here. I was just looking at the game. we don't find Annihilus, unfortunately. So there's some kind of cool things I think about doing. Ultimately, we gotta throw in the towel here. My opponent is gonna snap on this final turn, and I believe that was my opponent, right? That wasn't me. Yeah. My opponent snaps here. Boomer snap on the final turn of the game. I already wasn't feeling confident about it though, so I don't think that there's any way I can stay in it. I mean, I can't even play to Wakandan Embassy. And even if I could, the fact that I have priority would just be too awkward, because then my opponent would get to play the second Annihilus. So by that snap, they're representing having Annihilus too. We're just going to get out of there, lose 1 cube, and move on to the next one. Only down 1 cube right now, 5 to 6 health remaining for my opponent. So I definitely think we can still take him here as we move into our first high stakes round, again with Valley of the Hand. Not a huge impact last game. It is going to be a big impact this game for us though. We're going to play Maria Hill into Valley. At least I think it has a big impact this game. Yes. Okay, I just remembered exactly what happens in this game. This is a cool one. This is a cool one. You're gonna like this one. So I'm gonna play Daredevil off of the Maria Hill. I lose my Falcon to Spider-Ham, but I get to play Daredevil, which seems really actually kind of good in Annihilus mirrors. Daredevil might actually be a real card again. It hasn't seen play for a little bit, but with Annihilus, Alioth, Professor X, I don't know, I feel like Daredevil could potentially see some play. I'm gonna snap just because of Daredevil, because I'm thinking this is pretty good in Alioth mirrors, or sorry, Annihilus mirrors specifically. Opponent's gonna hit me with the Widow's Bite into Shuri's lab, and our third location is Knull. So I'm gonna play that Widow's Bite over there, and then I've got Snowguard plus Pig to grab some additional just power on the board. Loki's looking a little bit rough against this Widow's Bite deck. That Spider-Ham plus Widow's Bite, both pretty decent against Loki. My opponent's kind of running me out of resources here. And then Werewolf by Night, pretty good in Knull as well. So definitely looking a little bit awkward, but then I draw Carnage. And when you see it, you'll shit bricks. This is a really sweet play that we get to do here. Basically, we get to put huge power into Shuri's lab and then send that huge power into Valley of the Hand, which is just really, really awesome. I thought this was a really, really cool play. And we're setting up, we're going to do some Alioth or Annihilus battles. Annihilus and Alioth, both of those being in the game, get a little bit confusing for me. And then this turn we have Daredevil Sight. We also draw Annihilus, which just, this is a perfect setup. I'm super happy to be playing this one for 4 cubes here. I will say the only awkward thing is Daredevil is currently bugged in Marvel Snap. If you did not already know this, you cannot really see the cards that your opponent plays on the Daredevil turn. You can't click them to make them any bigger. So I'm doing a angry reaction here on Daredevil. Can't click them to make them any bigger. You just have to recognize them by the art. Now, this card right here, I can see that's Beast. I don't know what this is. Let me know in the comments down below if you think you could have guessed what this card was going to be before it was revealed. Maybe I'll throw that one onto Twitter. But for this turn, I am just going to destroy that huge Sentry with Carnage, and then make a pretty big Snowguard Bear as well in that location. My opponent plays Beast, and then Chibi the Hood. That's what it was. Really tricky one there. You really got to pay attention to all of the different variants when you are playing with Daredevil. But this is a really, really sweet turn here now, because for multiple reasons. One, huge win in Valley of the Hand. The other awesome thing, huge loss overall. My opponent has priority. They also can't play to Shuri's lab, so I'm looking to win all 3 locations in this one, and I think my opponent will realize that and just retreat, because they cannot win Valley of the Hand, they cannot win Shuri's lab, they can win Knull. that's probably not going to be enough to win them the game. They could play the Demon, they could play Annihilus, but the fact that they're bunked in Shuri's lab is also really, really awkward for them. And we're going to have 37 power in Shuri's lab. They actually play it out crazy. They're going to destroy the Void, send me over the hood. Sure. Sending me over a -6 power hood is good, except I am unfortunately going to send it right on back over to my opponent, plus destroy all the voids and stuff. I mean, that's fine. My opponent won in Knull. We took them in the other 2 locations. That's going to be for 5 cubes, put them down to 1. I think my opponent might still stay in it here, though. No, they are going to concede after that 5 cube loss. Really, really fun match there. That is going to be... I think that's probably the best match in the video. Just some really, really awesome ways to make use of Hand of the Valley, which now I'm actually thinking about it. I did put out a Hand of the Valley video. I was playing Galactus. I called it Valley Girls. But honestly, just a really, really fun match overall. And yeah, just some really fun moments. And now we are on to the finals to secure that infinity ticket. I'm actually just going to jump ahead to the final game of this match. Because my opponent is just playing a pretty basic Shuri deck, and I don't think the games are super exciting. So we're going to end on the high note of that previous match. And then in this one, I basically just have to try to beat Vision and Taskmaster in one of the locations that gets played to, and it's a little bit tricky because I don't know where Vision is going to move to, where the Taskmaster is going to move to, but ultimately I decided that this is how I thought my opponent was going to play their cards. We're already winning an Onslaught Citadel, so I just had to win there by a little bit, and then I'm going to contribute all of my power over to Xandar with Werewolf by Night plus my Demon, and that is going to beat my opponent's Taskmaster. And we will be up 4 cubes to start this one off. So yeah, like I said, just a pretty basic match here. Though I do think that the next game is kind of exciting as well. We'll jump ahead a little bit in this video. We get Mojo World, which my opponent isn't super well equipped to deal with. One thing that I do in this game that is probably a mistake. One, I let my opponent win Asgard for free. Wasn't thinking about the fact that Nebula was just going to grow. And then I also turn off Danger Room for my opponent with Snowguard Hawk. So kind of like a double down on mistakes there. My opponent made no play on turn 4. They just didn't draw their cards in the right order. But then we drew them 2 additional cards, so they are still going to have a shot to make a play for the rest of this game. I would have loved if Danger Room was still on here, just because there's no way at this point that my opponent can battle for Mojo World as a Shuri deck that missed some of their opening plays. So they are probably going to win Danger Room, which means we've got to make an honest effort to battle for Asgard here. And I think like MVP of, I won't say MVP. MVPs are like Werewolf, Loki, and Annihilus for sure, but I think Maria Hill has done some really, really fun stuff, both in the first match, it got us the Mojo in one game, and in this game, it got us Hazmat, which is a really cool card with Annihilus. We're not going to be able to do anything super crazy with it in this game, in terms of like making my opponent take more of my cards or triggering it multiple times. But we do something pretty cool with it here. The math is a little bit spooky. It gets very close, but we can use Hazmat to contribute 2 power in Asgard towards our win, while also playing Loki for an additional 5 power. But the other thing that it does, because we have priority, Hazmat is typically not as effective on the final turn. But because we are playing around Taskmaster specifically here, Hazmat is going to shrink my opponent's Red Skull down to 13, which means we now tie my opponent in Asgard as 18 to 18, and then we beat them on differential with Mojo World there. So still a really fun like final turn for all of this to finish out this gold conquest undefeated with this deck. This final game was undefeated, but just overall we did not lose a single conquest match. and we were able to take it all the way from Proving Grounds to an Infinity ticket. Infinity Conquest opens up next week, and I will be sure to be trying out this deck there as well. But for today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.